Gator Dave, how we doing, sir? On the road, it
We
looks like.
we are on the road, Mike. We are in Chi-Town. We are in Chicago, Illinois, sir.
Windy
Doing a
City.
little work for the company. Checking things out here, sir. How
The
you
company.
doing?
The company. I'm good. I'm good, Gator Dave. As you can see, still got the medal over here, so it was a good week. It was a good week.
Yeah, it was a good
We'll
week. You
take
took
it.
you took you took two more from me there, buddy. So
Good little bounce back. Good little bounce back.
not not too bad. Not too bad, my friend. Not too bad.
Let me go ahead and rip the band-aid off for you. Throw this recap up there,
All right,
real
the
fast. Is there
ugliness.
any? Yeah, the little bit of an ugliness. Yeah, some of those teams let us down a little bit. SMU blew that game against Baylor. Tulane blew the cover. They had the cover and then gave up a little late garbage touchdown. Blew that there, and then UTSA got just outplayed by Texas State. Same with UConn. Lost in overtime by 7. If you remember right, last week we talked about maybe getting up there to that hook number at 7 rather than the 6.5, just to kind of give you some extra insurance, or the 7 or plus 7.5, and that's exactly why. So, we didn't take it for this show, but we did. We try to make these little pointers here and there for you to think about when you're doing your own wagers and whatnot. Shout out to Public House. See you in the chat, brother. Thanks for hopping in. Everybody else that's watching, please like, comment, subscribe. We would really appreciate all our people on the podcast. Make sure to give us a 5-star review. We're going to run it back like we did last week. We're going to do 12 games here on the YouTube channel, and then we're going to give you 4 bonus games, podcast exclusive. So make sure to tune into the podcast this week to catch those as well. Gator Dave, what do you got?
Yeah, so we had a couple of wins on those bonus games. Make sure you check out that podcast. The tail end of the podcast has those bonus games. So a couple of wins, only one loss in the four. Gator Dave and Miami Mike did pretty darn well in the bonus games on the podcast. You know, we are Bets Utopia, number one location for all things sports betting. We're excited to get week number 3 kicked off. Rough week. I got a lot of text messages, Mike, after the Florida game, asking was I okay, and I appreciate your text, Mike. Checking in on me. I appreciate that. Public House gave me a text. My lovely wife got a text from her, concerned about my health after the loss, and Billy Sling Blade let us down. Rough Saturday for Gator Day for sure.
Yeah, I saw videos of chants of Fire Billy, going through the stadium as people were leaving. Was it how was the energy down there? I'm assuming not
The energy was
positive.
pretty rowdy in that regard, Mike, for sure. We were all chanting that as we left the stadium for sure.
Yeah,
It was uh,
man.
it was interesting. I mean, it was just bad. It was bad. And we'll talk about the Gators because I threw them on here this week because I have confidence in my team, and I'm not going to say in my team to do what.
I love it. I love the cliffhanger, Dave.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, all right. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started with the first game here. It's going to be App State at Southern Miss here, Gator Dave. What do you say about that
So
one?
this was one I put on here. App State comes in 2-0, wins over Charlotte, 34-11, and Lindenwood. If you've heard of them, Mike, Lindenwood. Not sure where that wood is, but they only won 20 to
Whoa,
13 in that game. Um,
whoa.
rough game. But it was a win for the Mountaineers. They had 3 fumbles, an interception, so some issues. Um, they did have 503 yards to 217, so respectable in that regard. App State QB AJ Swain was 19 of 34 for 294 yards, and running back their lead running back had 194 yards of rushing. So on the year, Swain 62%, 662, 5 TDs. So looking pretty good. And running back is Debian, and he is 47 carries for 305 yards and a TD. All right, on the year, Southern Miss, they're only 1-1, Mike. A loss to start the year at Mississippi State, 34-17. They won last week against Jackson State, 38-20. In the game last week against Southern Miss, they had 363 yards to 322 at Jackson State. Jackson State had a couple of turnovers, interception. Quarterback for the Eagles of Southern Miss, he's running 66%, 214, and 3 TDs. So the Eagles, I kind of want to talk about them for a second. This is the team that got the Marshall coach that turned around and took 30 players from Marshall to Southern Miss. So I think they're going to bounce back this week and give App State a run for their money. I think App State had a lot of turnovers. I think that's going to be an issue for them. They had a lot of penalties in that game. So Mike, I'm going to go with the Southern Miss Eagles at the +2.5 here. Mike, what do you think?
I was actually on Southern Miss at the beginning of this, and I've actually switched over to App State. Um, I'm with you. I understand this is like you said, this is the new Marshall team, after that success that they had last year. But I like this App State team. Also, this line has moved a little bit. It's swung. So I think it opened up at -2.5 for Southern Miss. It's now -1.5 in the favor of App State. There's just something about that line it's just intriguing to me. And A.J. Swan is the quarterback for App State right now. He's got 5 touchdowns, only 1 interception. They have a running back with over 300 yards on the ground, 2 200-yard-plus receivers for App State. I like what they're doing on offense. On defense, they're shutting people down. Now, granted, you got to take kind of this with a grain of salt when it comes to some of these games in these first few weeks. For example, App State's played Charlotte, and you mentioned Lindenwood. So, and on the flip side, Southern Miss, they opened with Mississippi State, lost by 17 at home there, but then they just played Jackson State as well. So, until we really know kind of some of these lower end schools, what they really got on their roster, just kind of take it with a grain of salt. Be warned. But I'm going to go with the App State here. Give me the true head-to-head here, Gator Dave.
Awesome. Right. And by the way, Ian Gleason has told us that Lindenwood is in Kansas. So just so you know, and so shout out to Ian and shout out to Evelyn who have jumped in the chat with us. So good news there. So all right. Next game, we're going down in Mike's neck of the woods, South Florida, his favorite place. We're doing the Fs, the FAU, and the FIU. Excuse me, I almost said it. So we got FIU getting 2.5 here. The over-under is 58.5, Mike. So the Owls of FAU come in at 1-1. The loss to Maryland, 39-7. Win against Florida A&M, 56-14 last week. So last week, FAU had 553 yards of offense. A&M only 297. The Owls, that's FAU Owls. Caden Veltkamp is their QB, was at 64%, 537, 6 TDs, 4 interceptions on the year. Running back Sands is rushed for 127 yards. Now, Florida International comes in the game 1-1 as well. They've played their tough team and their rough team. You like that, Mike? The win over Bethune-Cookman, who you guys had to win over, 42-9 over Bethune, and lost last week a respectable 34-0. In their game last week against Penn State, they They gained 290 yards on Penn State to Penn State's 409. And they had, 409 yards total, 290 in the air, 141 on the ground. They lost a fumble. They had an interception. So they had some rough luck against a good team. The quarterback, Jenkins, is 57% on the year, which isn't that great. 314, no TDs, interception. He's 149 and two TDs. So he's one of those running quarterbacks. Devontae Lyons, their running back, 93 yards and a TD on the year. So Florida International, they went to Beaver Stadium and faced the big Penn State Nittany Lions last week. Not an easy chore, obviously. But they stood tall. And on third downs, they only allowed 3 of 12 on third downs, which I thought was pretty impressive. So when I look at the way that Florida International played against Penn State, which is even a much better team than Maryland, it makes me feel pretty good in saying, Mike, that I'm going to take Florida International and the money line here. I think it's a pretty safe bet. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you here. I also like FIU on the money line. You know, you got head coach Willie Simmons, who came over from Florida A&M from last year. And you look at who these teams have played. You mentioned it. FIU's playing, or they just played Penn State, rather. They did get shut out in Happy Valley, but they actually kept that game pretty close for a while before Penn State kind of just poured it on them. I like what this FIU team is going to be able to do on the ground as well versus FAU team. FAU's defense is giving up 90 yards on the rush, but that's also against Maryland and Florida A&M. They absolutely torched Florida A&M last week. Maryland, they got destroyed week 1, 39-7. But I'm with you, Dave. I like FIU to get this one done. A couple of tidbits, though, here about this one, which is pretty ugly for us. This is the Shula Bowl, actually, as well, for shout-out Don Shula. But FIU trails this series 17-5 all time. They've lost 7 straight, and they've by at least 18 points and have not covered in those 7 games. So hopefully that trend does not continue. Gator Dave, give me FIU. I'm with you.
And Mike, I'd like to officially apologize to Steel City Scott Crawford for forgetting to leave him out. But I'm having to read on this really small iPad versus I've got a completely different setup here, Scott. So I'm like a fish out of water, bro. So shout out to Steel City Scott Crawford, the man, the myth, the legend on the NFL picks. So yeah. So next game is Kansas State Wildcats against the Arizona Wildcats. So we got K-State at 1.5 here, right, Mike? 54.5 on the over-under. Wildcats heading to the Wildcats in Tucson, Arizona. K-State comes in surprisingly at 1-2. They lost in Ireland, Iowa State. They beat North Dakota. And, yep, they lost to Army last week with a brand new quarterback. Last week's game, K-State did outgain. Army outgained K-State 332 to 246. And they held the Wildcats to 74 yards on the ground. So that means Avery wasn't running. Avery Johnson was 60%, 172, 1 TD, and an interception. The Black Knights, we know they love to control that ball, and they did against K-State. So junior quarterback, although his first, big start against a big team, he was 7 of 11 for 43 yards. He ran the ball 41 times, Mike, for 124 yards. Army did what they do. They come up and they surprise these Power 4 and Group of 6 teams because they are who they are. So Arizona comes in the game 2-0, feeling good about themselves. Wins over Hawaii 40-6. Weber State 48-3. Weber State, in that game, the Wildcats gained 556 yards last week to Weber State's 184. Weber had 2 interceptions, didn't really help things. Fafita, inconsistent. He's been that way, but he's been 77%, 373, 5 TDs in that game. They had 150 yards on the ground. Last year in this game, K-State won 31-7. I don't think it's going to be quite that this year, Mike. We got 2 good quarterbacks. I don't think either defense is that good. So, Mike, I'm going to jump on the over 54.5 points in this game, Mike. What do you think?
I think I can't trust Kansas State as far as I can throw them, Gator Dave. You mentioned that they're 1-2 through 3 games because they played week 0 over in Ireland, like you were talking about, but they really should be 0-3. They barely got by North Dakota. They won by 3 on some fluke stuff, honestly. Should have lost that game. They did lose their other 2 to Iowa State and last week against Army, like you mentioned. Army, you also mentioned, had that new quarterback. Army did not look good, to be frank, in their first game of the season before playing Kansas State. They played Tarleton State and lost.
Tarleton State. Where is that
lost.
One? Is that like in
I believe that's Texas. Texas. But lost by 3 at home to Tarleton State and then went to Kansas State and won by 3. I can't trust Kansas State. If you look at Avery Johnson's stats, he's actually not having a bad year, which is really surprising. No. Because what I saw when they played Iowa State was atrocious. I mean, I lost all faith in him, moving this team forward. But it's really not his fault. And there's really no explanation for it other than, I think, coaching. And I think Arizona, you mentioned Fafita not having sort of the consistency that he's had, last year per se, this year so far. I think this might be a breakout here for him. The line also is a little weird. The fact that Kansas State is favored still, sitting at 1-2. I think a lot of people are treating this as a do or die game for them. Whereas Arizona can play a little more free. So give me Arizona at home in Tucson here, Dave, to get it done.
Yeah, I like that. I like it. All right, next up, we're going to roll on back to the East Coast, Mike. We're going to the ACC in North Carolina State. They're favored by 7 over Wake Forest. Over and under is 52.5. So NC State 2-0 on the year. Wins over East Carolina by 7 and Virginia by 4. Little tight. This week, obviously, they're going to travel to Wake. Last year's game, Mike, 34-30 in favor of Wake Forest at NC State. Last week, the Wolfpack in that game, they outgained Virginia 514 to 416. Bailey, he was 70% for 200 yards a TD, ran for 44 and 2 TDs. And the running back Smothers ran for 140 yards, 8.2 yards a carry, which is pretty good. I do think Virginia's a little bit better than I thought they were going to be. Not all that, but they're a little better. So far, Bailey is 70% on the year for 519 yards, couple of TDs and an interception. So Wake comes in the game 2-0, wins over the home team, Mike, my home team, Kennesaw State University, where they won 10-9. So they beat Western Carolina last week 42-10. In that game last week, they had 542 yards of offense, so they kind of pepped up their step a little bit. Compared to 238 for Western Carolina. However, they turned the ball over 3 times, 2 fumbles and an interception. And the Catamounts of Western Carolina, they turned the ball over twice as well. So Ashford for Wake, 13 of 22, 227 yards last week. which is not too bad. Their running back Claiborne, Mike, was 10 carries, 193. Pretty damn impressive, and 3 TDs. That's impressive. So Ashford on the year is 445, 66%. And he's run the ball for 108 yards, which isn't too bad. So this should be a pretty fun game when you look at these quarterbacks. Very, very similar, pretty decent throwing the ball and like to run the ball. NC State, I think they're more talented. Obviously, they should be favored. But Mike, the Wolfpack, they're 2-11 against the spread in their last 13 games when favored by 5 or more points. I know you like those kind of numbers. NC State has failed to cover each of its last 6 road games when favored by 5 or more points. Wake Forest hasn't played anybody yet. Obviously, we've seen that. But the underdog in this game has won 3 of the last 5 between Wake Forest and NC State. So, Mike, give me Steve Taylor's Demon Deacons and give me them 7 points to take care of business. What do you think?
I absolutely love it, Dave. I think Wake Forest wins this game outright. So I'm with you. I'm with you. A couple of quick things that I want to point out. You mentioned, Wake's near loss to Kennesaw State to start the season. And that is because that guy that you mentioned, Damon Claiborne, who's their running back, he ended up getting hurt after 3 carries against Kennesaw State. So that's why that game was so close. Their offense goes as he goes. And for this NC State team, they gave up. They really should be 0-2 right now. They snuck away from East Carolina with a win in a game that they really didn't deserve. They gave up almost 400 yards passing to East Carolina. Should have lost that game. They ended up winning 24-17. And then last week they beat Virginia in a game that they gave up over 250 yards on the ground and through the air against Virginia. So these are games, you normally would lose. They've somehow found a way to win them. But this one is Thursday night. This is Thursday night football. Fluke stuff in September. Give me the dog plus the 7. Robbie Ashford is having a great year right now for Wake Forest. Damon Claiborne, you mentioned their running back. Absolute stud. This game also, you had some great tidbits, Dave. I just want to say that as well. I love those trends. I love those numbers. It's beautiful.
I knew you'd eat it up, Mike. Eat it up.
I love it. I love it. Keep it coming. These two teams, though, they're very familiar with each other. They've played every single year since 1910. Every single year since 1910. The Deacons are actually, in their last 4 at home against NC State, they're 3-1 straight up. And 3-1 against the spread as well. Last 4 at home. Give me the Demon Deacons to get it done with the 7. And again, I think they actually win this one outright. I'm pretty confident in it. I like it, Dave. I like the pick.
Love it. I love it. So hey, we got shout outs. My lovely wife Nirvana is on with us, as well as Caleb. What's up, Caleb? As well as Linda, somebody near and dear to your heart there, Mike. So, yes, online with us. Thanks for joining, folks. Next game, we're staying in the ACC, but ACC out the other way. This is a very interesting game. We have the Duke Blue Devils going to Tulane, all right? And Mike's given us a half a point as Tulane being the winner in this game. A little bit there at home cooking, right? Over under at 54.5. So Duke comes in this game 1-1 with a game with their big win against Elon, Mike. In their first game, 45-17, and a loss last week against Illinois, who looks pretty darn good. Now, of course, the interesting thing about this game, if you know, the quarterback for Duke Blue Devils is Darren Mensah, the $4 million a year man. Last year, he's playing for Tulane. And guess what? He's going back home to play against Tulane this week. So should be a very interesting game. Last week against Illinois, Duke actually outgained Illinois, 428 to 419, Mike. However, 4 fumbles lost and an interception. Damn, you can't win a game like that. That's why they lost. They had more yards, but they lost the game because they didn't win the turnover battle. Duke didn't run the ball that well last week, only 82 yards of rushing. And we know Illinois is tough up front. Mensa, 68%, 334, and 2 TDs, and an interception on the day. He spread the ball out, Mike, to 12 different receivers. So this guy can chunk it. On the year, he's 73%, 723 yards, 5 TDs, and interception. Top 2 running backs have 80 and 74 yards each. So they're not running the ball very well. Okay, but not good enough at this point. Tulane comes in the game 2-0 with a win over a big Power 4 team in Northwestern, Mike, 23-3. And South Alabama, they scathed by 33-31 last week. So last week against South Alabama, the Green Wave outgained South Alabama 421 to 406. The difference in the game was the Jaguars of South Alabama lost 2 fumbles, and that's why Tulane won the game. Rexliff, the quarterback for Tulane, who was at BYU, and we won't talk about his past, but so he's the starting quarterback. He was 13-24, 125 yards, not really that great. But they also threw in Brendan Sullivan at 3 of 3 for 40 yards. So Green Wave running backs had 80 yards each in Mobley and Gordon. So after 2 games, Restliff is 56%. And remember, he's coming in like at the end of the summer, 277, 2 TDs, not looking that great, in my opinion. Obviously, a lot's made of that Duke quarterback, Mensa, starting, against his home team. So I think it's going to be tough, but Mike, I'm going to say Duke's got this one in the bag, and I'll take a half a point if that's what you're giving me here, sir. So, but I think Duke's going to take care of business in this game. Most people are really thinking Tulane's going to do it, but I think Duke's got this thing by 3 to 7 points. What do you think?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are looking at this Duke team in this spot as maybe a bit of a letdown or a carryover game from last week against Illinois. They played them at home, top 11 team in the country. Had them right at halftime, 17-13. Illinois outscored them in the fourth quarter, 17-0, and ended up winning that game pretty handily against Duke. But you mentioned it, Darian Mensah, Duke's quarterback, who had 334 yards in that game and 2 touchdowns. He's going home to Tulane. So this is one of those where I think they get back up for him. They're going to try to get this win for him, knowing that they're going back there. It's going to be a hostile environment. I think Duke's going to be fired up for it. Manny Diaz, the head coach, former Miami guy, he's definitely going to use that as bulletin board material and have his guys, I think, ready to go. And, I do love the numbers, Dave. So here's some numbers for you. Duke has won the last 3 that they've played versus Tulane. They played in 2011, 2014, and 2015. Average score between those 3 games, 44-16 against Tulane. 3-0 against the spread. Their last 6 games against the American Conference in general, Duke is 6-0 straight up and against the spread. The last time they played one was at UCF in 2022. I'm with you. I like this Duke team. I think they get it done. I like the defense. They're going to put pressure on Retzlaff. Retzlaff is their leading rusher over there at Tulane. So, if you slow him down and make him one-dimensional, I think that's the way to beat him. And I think Manny Diaz will have that defense aggressive and ready to go. So I'm with you. Give me Duke. Let's do it.
All right. Let's jump over to SEC with in a conference matchup with Arkansas at Ole Miss. Ole Miss favored by 7, over under 61.5. So the Razorbacks come in 2-0 on the year. Wins over Alabama, A&M, 52-7, and Arkansas State 56-7 in the games. In the game against the Red Wolves last week, they gained 309 yards. All right, they were 83% on third down conversions. While that's impressive, they held Arkansas State to only 132 in the air. Both teams had 2 interceptions each. I mean, 300 yards to me against Arkansas State, I don't get it. All right, so Taylor Green for the Hogs, quarterback, 72%. 561 yards on the year, 10 TDs, 2 interceptions. He's rushed for 195 and 1 TD. Their running back, Mike Washington, 195 yards and a TD as well. So Ole Miss comes into the game 2-0 as well, with wins over Georgia State and freaking Kentucky not covering the dang points at the end of that. All right, 30-23. So in their game against Kentucky, they had 455 to Kentucky's 359. Rebs weren't so good on third downs, 23%, not too good. They had two interceptions thrown by Austin Simmons. Remember, I told you guys about that quarterback at the beginning of the year. I thought he was going to do well. He's a pretty good guy, but he's thrown 2 interceptions in his last 2 games. He's 60%, 576, 3 TDs. He's also run for 61 yards and a TD as well. So, Ole Miss top running back is Kawan Lacey, 44 carries, 246. We know how Lane likes to run the ball. Remember, he thinks it's all about throwing, but they got to be able to run the ball and make it happen. And this kid's done a good job with 246 and 4 TDs. Through 2 games, Arkansas ranks 2nd in the SEC in total offense at 591, and 108 points on the scoreboard. So Ole Miss, this game being at home to me is the big one. Ole Miss plays much better at home. Last year they scored 63 against Arkansas. Now that was at Arkansas, but I think the Lane train's going to look to come back a little bit this week, score some more points, get Mr. Simmons in control, which he's a young kid. He's only like 18 or 19 years old in his 2nd year, and I think the Rebels will cover the 7 points. Mike, what say you, sir?
I say not so fast, my friend. Shout
I
out to
knew
Lee
you
Corso.
would.
I'm on Arkansas here. This is a revenge slot for them. They got absolutely torched at home last year by the Lane train, 63-31. But if you look at the history of this rivalry, it's a lot closer than that. Last 4 years before that, they alternated games with the home team winning each one. But if you look at it from a spread standpoint, Arkansas has actually covered 10 of the last 12 versus Ole Miss with 6 outright upsets. Sam Pittman, the head coach for Arkansas in general, he's 22-11 as an underdog with 9 outright upsets. So I think this is a game that Arkansas is hot. They are a hot dog in this one. That's right. You see what I did there? You like that?
I like it. I like it.
I think they're going to get this one done. Also, I'd look at that under potentially at the total 61.5. That's a high total in this one. But the reason being is Taylor Green, the quarterback for Arkansas, 10 touchdowns to just 1 interception. Dave, also something to note here. You mentioned the lack of offensive production last week for them against Arkansas State. That reason being Arkansas State had the ball 37 minutes to just 22 for Arkansas. Arkansas State actually turned the ball over 3 times as well and punted just 4 times in that game. That Arkansas won 56-14 and basically had on ice by the end of the 3rd quarter, if not halftime. So I think this Arkansas team is ready to go. Austin Simmons, another note there, he hurt his ankle at the end of that game last week against Kentucky, so that's something to note as well if he's even going to go. But you mentioned his issues this year. He hasn't played well, so I'm really not, I'm not sold on this Ole Miss team at all yet. Give me Sam Pittman fighting for his job. He's one of the head coaches this year that are on the hot seat a little bit. in his 6th year here at Arkansas. Give me Sam Pittman to get an upset potentially here in Oxford, Mississippi here, Dave.
I like it. I like it, Mike. I like another head-to-head because I feel real good about the lane train.
All
All
right.
right, speaking of feeling good, I know we got another one I think we're both feeling good about, and that is the Pitt Panthers. And they're at West Virginia Mountaineers. So Pitt's favored by 7 right now, right, Mike? And we scrambled there at the end in terms of getting all these in the right order. But that's okay. Over under is 57.5. So Pitt comes in the game 2-0, defeats over the mighty Duquesne and Central Michigan, Mike. 61-9 over Duquesne and 45-17 against Central Michigan. So last week against CMU, and that's the Shark Humpers team, if I'm not mistaken. So they put up 464 yards of offense, held the Chippewas to 217 yards. Central Michigan had only 40 yards of rushing. Both teams had a turnover each. Eli Holstein, who I'm quite impressed with, and Tyler Oskin, I'm calling your team out and your boys here, buddy. Feeling good about those Panthers. So he was 21-28 for 304 yards and 4 TDs and an interception. He also ran for 36. They only had 124 on the ground. Not too bad, I guess, if you're throwing 304. Holstein on the year is 71%, 519, 8 TDs, and 2 interceptions, 77 yards on the ground and a TD. Desmond Reed, their running back, 18 carries, 112 yards. So Mountaineers come in 1-1, 45-3 win over the mighty Robert Morris team, and they lost last week at Ohio. And that's not Ohio State, Mike. That is Ohio, 17-10. In that game, Ohio had 429 yards to West Virginia's 250. West Virginia only 2 of 13 on third downs, ran the ball for only 72 yards. Interesting enough in this game, with that beating, Ohio had 3 interceptions, still won the game by what? What did I say that was? Blah, 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 blah. What was the score of the Ohio game, Mike? 17-10. They won by 7
10.
and had 3 interceptions. So Navarro, interesting quarterback. He threw for 347, but he did have that issue with the interceptions. He's had 870 yards on the ground. That Navarro kid. Damn. All right. So the Mountaineers, Nico Marcoli, he's at 70%, 402, 1 TD and 1 interception. Their leading rusher is White at 133 yards and 3 TDs. I'm not real impressed. This one's the big rivalry game. If it wasn't a rivalry game, I'd call it a Gator Day block. But I think Pittsburgh's a better team right now. I think they easily win by 7, if not 10. If it wasn't a rivalry game, it'd be like freaking 17. But give me the Pitt Panthers to cover the 7 points, Mike. What you say?
Yeah, I'm with you, Dave. I like Pitt for all the same reasons that you did. I got a lot of faith in Eli Holstein at quarterback for them. Pat Narduzzi, I think, is just a better coach. He's 2-1. They revived this backyard brawl back in 2022, and he's 2-1 against West Virginia in these games. Something to note, though, that goes against us here, Dave. This is the 108th game between these two teams. 6 of the last 8 meetings have been decided by 7 or less. So that doesn't necessarily go on our side with that -7 there. But I still have faith in it. I think Pitt's going to be able to get it done. Like you said, they're just the better team right now. Something that could have happened last week, though, was West Virginia. They could have looked past that Ohio team. But, man, they looked bad. Bad against that Ohio team. So I can't
Mike, it's that team again. It's that team that's lost half their team and have half
Yeah.
new players. I mean, it's like North Carolina right now. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. I don't give a shit who you bring in. If you're bringing in half a team, it's hard to win anytime, and
Yeah.
get everybody on sync, especially in the first
For
half of
sure.
the year. Second half, maybe they look a whole hell of a lot better, but first half it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
All right,
For sure. Also,
so
real
Mike,
quick, sorry. Since
yes,
2021, Pitt is also 9-1 against the spread as a road favorite. So there you go.
there you
Nice little
go.
tidbit for you on that one.
Awesome. Shout out to Novoski as well as Monty Welshons. Called out the knucklehead for earlier, so all good. He was the guy beeping my phone earlier, so I'm yanking his chain. All right, Mike, do we have Clemson, Georgia Tech next, sir?
Whoa. No, we have Vanderbilt, South Carolina here
All right,
today.
you call
Vanderbilt,
you
South
call the
Carolina.
game out, so I stay on track because we didn't get our we didn't
Got it.
quite get our cut and paste down as we should there before we started. So all right, so
You're right.
we
We
are
got to do better, Dave.
going.
We got to do better.
I know, man. I know. Vanderbilt, South Carolina. I love this game. I can't wait to watch it. So Vanderbilt at South Carolina. This line, folks, oh my God. It was damn nine, almost 7 to 9 points in favor of South Carolina. Now it's only Mike, what do we got? 3 or 4? We got 4?
Four and a
Four
half.
in
Four and a
favor,
half.
4.5 in favor of South Carolina.
4.5.
Holy moly. All right. 48 and a half's over and under. So Vanderbilt comes in this game 2-0 on the season. They beat Charleston Southern, and then they took Virginia Tech to the house, baby, 44-20 on Saturday. What a whooping that was. Um, Commodores, they had 490 yards of offense against the Hokies, and the Hokies 248. Vandy was 73% on third down conversions, Mike. They averaged 11 and a half to 4.6 yards per passing per play. Smoking. Hokies won the turnover battle, however. They lost. Vanderbilt lost a fumble, had an interception, and Virginia Tech only had one fumble. So the Doors racked up 262 yards of rushing in that game. After 2 games, Pavia is 468 for 74%, 5 TDs, an interception, run 19 times for 105 yards. Running back Alexander and Young have 156 and 114 yards, respectively, on the year. So South Carolina comes in this game 2-0, wins over Virginia Tech. So you get what I'm saying? First game, South Carolina beat Virginia Tech. Second game, Vanderbilt, Virginia Tech. Listen to my stats. Okay. So Virginia Tech lost 24-11 at home. South Carolina beat South Carolina State last week 38-10. Let's look at the numbers again from the Virginia Tech game so we can kind of compare it to Vandy. So Virginia Tech outgained South Carolina 336 to 328. This is at South Carolina, folks. South Carolina was 33% on third down coverage conversions. Remember what I said. What was Vanderbilt? 74%. South Carolina averaged 11 to 6.3 per play passing yards. Hokies turned the ball over twice to the Gamecocks, 0 times for the Gamecocks. South Carolina had 119 yards of rushing. Let's see, Vanderbilt. How many yards of rushing did they have? Oh, I think it was like 260 yards. All right. After 2 games, Lenore Sellers, 337 yards, 60%, 2 TDs, rushed for 48, 1 TD. Their top running backs have 80 and 61 yards, respectively. Do the math. Give me them Commodores. Easy money on the +4. And give me the Vanderbilt Commodores to go into South Carolina and win outright. Mike, to you, sir.
I'm with you. I'm on the same side, and I like the same thing to happen. I like Vanderbilt to win this one outright as well. Line has moved a little bit. I think it opened somewhere around 6. It's down to 4.5 now. You mentioned that at the beginning. My thing is Vandy looks good, okay? And the biggest thing that stood out to me last week against that Virginia Tech team, Vandy was losing that game 20-10 at halftime, and then blanked Virginia Tech in Blacksburg 34-0 in the second half and won 44-20. That should not be understated. That's straight coaching as well. That's adjustments at halftime. Clark Lee, the head coach, we talked about him last week. I'm with you. I like this Vandy team. Eli Stowers out there, Diego Pavia. They can run the football as well. They got a stout running back. Their defense is looking great. I think South Carolina is one of those teams that's fraudulent. If you look at the games that they've won, like Virginia Tech, they barely escaped Virginia Tech week 1, really because of a punt return for a touchdown. They were able to kind of do that. Last week against South Carolina State, shout out to our guy, Charles. They really sort of skated by them as well. South Carolina State was actually winning that game 3-0 at the end of the first quarter before South Carolina had, guess what, a punt return for a touchdown, and it kind of juiced everything. They actually had 2 back-to-back in that game, as well as a defensive fumble return for a touchdown in that one. So you take those 3 scores away. I know, and you got to count every score, but that's a 17-10 ball game without those 2 special teams touchdowns and a defensive touchdown. Now that is Beamer ball. Shane Beamer, son of former Virginia Tech head coach Frank Beamer, specializes in special teams and sort of fluke plays like that, and that is Beamer ball. I think Vandy's going to be ready for it. I don't think they're going to be worried about the South Carolina team at all. As long as they keep these receivers in front of them, they have some of the fastest wide receivers in the nation for South Carolina this year, and Nick Harbor on the outside. As long as they keep these guys in front of them, I think Vandy can get it done. I think it's a low-scoring game. Give me Vandy plus the 4.5, and I'm with you. I do think they probably win this one outright as well. So I like it, Dave.
All right. What do we got next, Mike? What game we got next?
Next, we got Texas A&M taking on Notre Dame in South Bend, Gator Dave.
Ooh, Texas A&M, Notre Dame. So, interesting tidbit about this game is most people have played a couple of games. Well, Notre Dame's played one damn game, which is kind of odd. But so we got Texas A&M at Notre Dame.
And what happened? What happened in that game, Dave?
Mike, I'm going to tell you what happened in that game if you give me a minute, my friend.
Oh, excuse me.
How about that? Because it's the only game I can talk about. Because it's the only game Notre Dame's had. So, are we at 6.5 here, Mike?
We're at 6.5. Yes, sir.
All right. So we have Texas A&M at Notre Dame. Notre Dame getting 6.5, 49.5 on the over/under. So here's what we got: Texas A&M 2-0 wins over UTSA and Utah State. Bada bing, 42-24 and 44-22, almost identical. So you look at last week's game, the Aggies outgained Utah State 54-250. Utah State only had 78 yards of rushing. Each team turned the ball over one time. So Marcel Reed for Texas A&M, 68%, 22 yards, 220 yards and 3 TDs, ran for 66 and a TD. They got their running back, Lavon Moss. He had 68 yards of rushing on 10 carries. Irish come in at 0-1 after losing to, how do I do this? Wait a minute. Losing to the U. So in that game, Miami outgained the Irish 324-314. So it was a little close, but it got better toward the end. So the Irish, more passing yards than the Canes. Turnover demise to Notre Dame. They had a couple of turnovers that they lost. Fumble lost, interception, problema, right? So CJ Carr was 63%, 221, 2 TDs and interception. Running back Price, 45 yards. Love only had 33. Kane shut down the running game. So Aggies come in red hot offense, okay? 43 average yards per game, or average points per game. Notre Dame was dominating at home last season with 7-2 record. On the flip side, the Aggies were just 2-3 on the road last year, struggled to cover. They were 3-9 against the spread total last year. Notre Dame also won their only meeting last season, and I expect them to win this one. And this is why Irish have an extra week to prepare themselves for this game. If you look at the second quarter of this game with our little guy, CJ Carr, he looked pretty good in the second half. He started clicking. So my thought is you get a week, you had a good second half. Give me the Irish to cover the 6.5 in this one, Mike. What do you think?
I'm with you, Dave. I actually love this play with Notre Dame. If you watched our preview show, you know that I picked Notre Dame to actually finish the season 11-1 with their one loss being to, you mentioned it, Miami, week 1. And this game this week is arguably their toughest game that they have the rest of the year. They play USC at home in October. That one could maybe be thrown up there. They got to go to Arkansas in a few weeks. Maybe throw that one in there. But, this is a ranked opponent at home, coming off that straight-up loss. And that's exactly why I am on Notre Dame. Let me hit you with some numbers here, Gator Dave. Under Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame off a bye, which they are in this situation. They are 8-2 straight up against Power 5 conference opponents. They are 23-8 against the spread under Marcus Freeman. They are 13-3 against the spread in their last 16 games versus ranked opponents at home, including 2-0 last year. Since 2018, Notre Dame is 30-7 against the spread in single-digit spread games and 23-4 against the spread as a favorite in those games. I think they come to play. I think they're eager to play this one. It's really tough to play a game that you sort of gave your all in. You expected to win. You thought you were going to win. You came that close against the odds, and you still lost. And then you got to sit on that for a week and practice and practice and practice and hit each other and not be able to hit anybody else that's not on your team. I think Notre Dame comes out in this one ready to go, and I expect them to beat Texas A&M by probably double digits in this one. So I actually love this play at 6.5. I think that's easy pickings all day long. Give me the Fighting Irish in South Bend here, Gator Dave. Shout out to my brother-in-law, Mr. Hicksonbaugh.
There you go. Awesome. I love it, Mike. So are we going Clemson, Georgia Tech next?
Yes, we are. Clemson, Georgia Tech.
All right. So let me lay this one out. This one's, these spreads, man. So, and Mike and I talked at length in the middle of the week about these spreads. Man. So this the spread on this one right now is, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, Clemson -3, right?
-3.5. A lot of movement.
-3.5. Okay, we got a half point. Woo, yeah. All right, at Georgia Tech, over under 52.5. So at the beginning of the week, this was -9. Oh my Lord. So, all right, you'll see why I'm, oh my Lord, here in a minute. So, all right, here's what we got. So Clemson comes in the game 1-1. Start of the year with a loss at home to LSU 17-10. Last week, Troy came in and gave them a battle, 27-16. Clemson only outgained Troy by 15 yards on the game, 316 to 301. Troy more passing yards, 223 to 196. Okay. Turnovers, showdown, Troy. Troy had 3 interceptions, Mike. Clemson won. They had 1 interception and a fumble. So net what? -1. And hell, had that come through, maybe this really would have been a game. Cade, the roller coaster Klubnik was 18 of 24, 196, 2 TDs and interception. Their running back, Randall, this was a better game, 21 carries, 112 yards, but, do the math on that. This team almost pulled a Florida Gator. I mean, almost, God, have they lost to Troy? I mean, Troy's probably even worse than USF. Ooh, can't imagine that. On the year, Klubnik, 60%, 426, 2 TDs, 2 interceptions. On the other side of the ball. So when I listen to a lot of sports talk at the beginning of the year, and they were talking about the 2 quarterbacks for Georgia Tech, and I'm going, yeah, we, whatever on the 2 quarterbacks, because I thought it'd be the running guy that we had the first week, right? Well, guess what? He got hurt. We played the second quarterback. So let's talk. Georgia Tech 2-0, wins over Colorado 27-20. Last week, winner over Garner-Webb 59-12, like everybody else, right? In the Garner-Webb game, they gained 680 yards of offense. They did allow 326, 208 of that through the air. So those DBs might be having some issues. Tech also had 2 turnovers and interception and a fumble. Yellow Jackets, they started Philo. The other quarterback, Haynes King, was injured. And again, I go back to what I talked about, that people talked about this 2 quarterback deal with this team. So, which kind of makes you wonder if I'm not sure what the eligibility is for both these guys. If they're both eligible next year, then one of them will be gone. All right, this guy, he went 21 to 28, 75%, 373 yards through the air, and 1 interception. Jackets ran the ball pretty well. Hosley for 100, Haynes for 92. So 192 yards of rushing. Clemson, 1-6 against the spread in its last 7 games. 1-6 against the spread last 7. Georgia Tech 4-2 against the spread in its last 6 games. Georgia Tech has won its last 6 home games. Mike, give me the Ramblin' Wreck in those 3 points with a Gator Dave lock out there at Bobby Dodd. What do you think?
I absolutely love it. I love it, Gator Dave. Again, if you watched our preview show, this is one of those games that we called early on to look out for, that this is going to be a trap game. This is going to be one of the only games, again, that Clemson has on their schedule that they got to worry about. I mean, once they get through this team against Georgia Tech, maybe SMU, maybe Florida State, maybe South Carolina at the end of the year. But other than that, they got a clean sweep of their season upcoming for them. But I'm with you, and here's why. Couple of numbers. I got them. So Clemson actually trails this series with Georgia Tech all-time 50-36. Clemson has actually won the last 9. So if you think about that, it's been a big swing in favor of Georgia Tech in history terms. Last time that Clemson came to Bobby Dodd Stadium to play Georgia Tech was in 2020, where we didn't have any fans in the stands, and Clemson blew the doors off of them 73-7. Largest Clemson win since 1903. But here's what the kicker is. I think Dabo is starting to lose his team a little bit. You ever seen the movie Varsity Blues, Dave?
Mike, I've seen the movie Varsity Blues. I love it.
That's your boy Dabo Swinney. He's had some good years, but he's a little bit out of touch with how things are going nowadays. And he continues to throw his players under the bus and run it over a couple times just to make sure they're good and gone after these tough games. And I think that's going to catch up to him sooner or later. And I think this is one of them where he might lose the team, and we might be looking at Dabo making a switch to maybe Alabama at the end of the year. Keep an eye out for that. There's a little future. But Clemson is 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 true road openers. As a road dog since 2019, the Tigers are just 7-15 against the spread. Georgia Tech, on the flip side, under Brent Key, alumni, this is his 4th year there. He is actually 4-1 against the spread as a home dog in this situation. Georgia Tech has beaten Clemson twice in the last 10 years at home. The Jackets are just 1-3 against the spread in their last 4, but I mentioned to you they're Clemson 7-1 in their last 9 against the Jackets. But this is a new day and age, new head coach, new culture at Georgia Tech. They've covered 3 straight as a home dog versus a ranked opponent, and the Jackets are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 ACC openers. And by the way, Gator Dave, Brent Key, as the head coach, is also just 9-5 against the spread versus ranked opponents. And Haynes King, the quarterback that you mentioned, got hurt. He is QB1 listed on the depth chart. Good to go for Clemson. He was a full participant in practice yesterday, so he should be good to go. You mentioned the 2 quarterback, though. If you look at the stats, I mean, the guy came in and he was phenomenal. So I'd be really surprised if we don't see him at all in this game against Clemson. Maybe some short yardage running situations, kind of use him as a Tebow package, go get it a little bit, maybe a play action, find somebody over the top and they're not expecting it. But he was slinging it. I think this lines up perfectly for Georgia Tech to sneak another one away from a top 15 team at home. It's a 12 o'clock noon game, which kind of sucks for them because I feel like if it was a night game, it'd be a no-brainer. You talked about the spread moving in this one also. Clemson, I think, if I remember right, on Monday opened up as a 7.5-point favorite, I believe. And now it's all the way down to 3.5. So that's definitely something to note as well. Get it at the number of 3.5. I think you won't be upset about it. So again, do what you will. Do your own thing, but give me the Yellow Jackets. And I think I'm with you, Dave. I think they might win in this one outright here at home against Clemson.
Hey, Mike, just to back you up a little bit, Mike, the spread was -9 to -3. Yes, -9.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Holy hell. The spread's moved a lot this week, man. We need help here in Georgia. All right, that's all I got to say. All right.
To say the least.
Mike, are we going to Florida LSU next?
We're going to Georgia, Tennessee next.
Georgia,
Dave. I saved your game for last for you.
Thank you. Well, you can leave my crying, my crying till the end, right?
Right.
So
that's
all right. So here we go. Hopefully Nirvana's still on. So we got Georgia. Mike, is the spread's changed a bit. Are we at -3.5?
We are at -3.5. Yes, sir.
-3.5. So Georgia's getting 3.5 at Rocky Top. Over under 49.5. So the Bulldogs, they're going to UT up there to Rocky Top with a 2-0 record. Wins over Marshall 45-7, and Austin P, the big whipping of 28-6. They have failed to cover the spread in both weeks, but that's not Kirby's thing. He doesn't give a shit about covering any spreads. Win the games, which don't mind if you win the games. Against Austin P last week, Dogs had 420 yards of offense, 196 for the Governors. They held the Governors to 45 yards of rushing, which is pretty good front line there, right? Georgia did lose 2 fumbles in the game and had and 1 interception of Austin P. So -1 on the turnover margin. Stockton 76% on 227 yards, Nate Frazier ran for 69 yards and 2 TDs against the Governors. Georgia offense, they looked a little off the mark, a little, pedestrian. They were 54% on third down conversions. The defense did let Austin Peay kind of run the clock as things went on. So on the year, Gunner Stockton, running gunner, 69%, 419, 2 TDs. Frazier is their leading rusher, 25 carries at 116. Phillips right behind him at 12 carries for 115, which is almost double the yards per line of scrimmage. All right, the Vols come in 2-0, wins over Syracuse, decent win by 19, 45-26, and East Tennessee State 72-17. So Joey Aguilar, the App State transfer by way of UCLA swap, is 66%, 535 and 5 TDs on the year. Vols, they're still trying to find that one running back, but they got 2 guys that are over 100 yards. Star Thomas, 24 yards, 161, and Deshaun Bishop, 14 for 150 yards. Top wide out is Brazel at 14 receptions at 187. All right, in terms of the last 2 weeks, obviously the Vols were competitive against Syracuse in week 1, 493 yards of offense. The Orange had 377, though, so they gave up 274 in the air and 103 on the ground. In their previous 2 meetings last season, Georgia's won 31-17 at home, covering the spread. As the game went over the points total, they're 8-1 against the spread in their last 9 meetings against Tennessee. 8-1 against spread against 9 meetings Tennessee. And over in 4.2 in their last 6 meetings. So over in the last 6 meetings, 4-2. Both offenses red hot start the season. Volunteers averaging 58 points a game. Bulldogs are at 36 in the last 2 games. So I am going to go out on a limb here, Mike, because I'm not sure which way this thing's going to go on the line. So I am going to go over in this game, Mike. The 49.5 or 50 points, whatever it is, as you see fit. But I'm going to say over in this game, sir.
Yeah, this one's going to be a tough one. Arguably
tough.
Georgia's toughest road game of the year. They only have 3 true road games, with 2 neutral site games, one being against your Gators, and then at the end of the year they're playing at Mercedes-Benz Stadium against Georgia Tech. So only 3 true road games. This game against Tennessee, at Auburn a little bit later in October, and then Mississippi State in November. The thing is, Georgia kind of owns Tennessee a little bit here, Dave.
They do.
They've won their last 8 against them. They've covered 6 straight. They've covered 8 of the last 9. They've won their last 9 straight SEC road openers in general. This is Georgia. Kirby Smart, 37-16 record versus top 25 opponents. 32-6 on the road. 105-19 overall. Absolutely ridiculous. As an away favorite, he's 20-14 against the spread. I'm just not sold on him yet. And this is a game that I've faded Georgia in the past and a few times, and they've always come to bite me. So, take this one as you will. But I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go Tennessee plus 3.5. This is another line also that has moved a lot. Beginning of the week, it was at 7. Now it's down to 3.5, so that's been cut in half. This is a 3:30 kickoff, so Knoxville's going to be rocking. They're going to be rowdy. And something else to note here, too, while Tennessee has had their struggles with Georgia, over the last few years. That's pretty much all they've had struggles with at home. They're actually 20-1 straight up since 2022 at home in Knoxville, with the one loss being against the Bulldogs. So I think the difference maker here for Georgia is, or Tennessee, is the fact that they have a game managing quarterback now. They have somebody who can spread the ball out with the deep ball, accurate down the field. He's not going to turn it over. He's not going to play hero ball. He's going to get it out to his receivers, let them do what they need to do. Also, Tennessee has a rushing game now. You mentioned it. They have two guys over 150 yards, something that Georgia, or they have not been able to do against Georgia in 6 of the last 8 times they've played them, is rush for over 100 yards. I think they'll be able to do that here in this one. I think they put pressure on Gunnar Stockton, make him throw the football. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think Georgia could end up sneaking away with this one and pulling it out in the end, and getting that money line like they tend to do. But give me Tennessee. Sooner or later, Tennessee has got to get right against Georgia. Just like a few years ago, they got right against y'all after you had their number for how many years. Sooner or later, enough is enough. And this is the best chance that Tennessee has had in almost a decade. So give me the Vols at home. Capable quarterback, good running game, good defense, everything in front of them. Give me the Vols plus the 3.5 here, Dave.
All right. I like it, Mike. I like it. All right. Let's go. Let's go see what my boys are going to do here in the next game. We're going Florida at LSU. So LSU right now, where are we, Mike? 7.5?
7.5. You got it.
7.5. So LSU favored by 7.5. Over under 48.5. So Gators come in 1-1 with a nightmare loss, 18-16 against the University of South Florida Bulls last week. Oh my God, it was tough to watch. So in the game, Byron Brown outshined the infamous DJ Lagway by throwing 4 more yards than him. Bulls outgained the Gators 391 to 355. The Gators, by the way, penalized 11 times for 103 yards, including a clown spitting in the face of another player. So I'll throw it out there. It is what it is. Embarrassing as hell, but the clown spit in the face of another player, as did a Georgia Bulldog against the Cowboys. Excuse me. Sorry about that. All right. Obviously, this is totally undisciplined. Offense was putrid, to say the least. Lagway wasn't on his game, and it was the usual sling blade cookie cutter offense. Right now, Lagway 342, 74.7%, 4 TDs, 1 interception. Jaden Ball looking pretty good. 27 carries, 197 and a TD. Top receiver is Vernell Brown the 3rd. 8 receptions for 135 yards. I feel, we got some really good players, but damn it, man. LSU comes in 2-0, big win in week 1 against Clemson. That win is starting to dwindle, and if Mike and I get our way, it's going to dwindle even worse after Clemson loses again. But it is what it is. Last week, LSU beat La Tech. They were 5-7 last year, 23-7 LSU's had 365 to Tech's 154. Nussmeyer 63%, 237 a TD and interception. Leading rusher was Barry at only 56 yards. So they weren't able to really run the ball against La Tech. Another interesting fact in the game, Tech was penalized 12 times for 130 yards in that particular game. So, it kind of takes away from that, from some of that total, in my opinion. Tigers Let's see. So we got Nussmeyer so far on the year, 469, 68%, 2 TDs. Not really Heisman material at this point. Their leading rusher, Caden Durham, 103 yards, 30 attempts, 2 TDs. Leading receiver is Aaron Anderson at 172, 14 receptions. Interesting fact, I was looking at the highest paid receivers, so they say, in NCAA, and I think at least 2, if not 3, of the top 10 receivers were from LSU. Interesting. Napier, let's talk about Sling Blade. 3-7 in away games. He's 4-6 in away games against the spread. He is 0-7 straight up on the road against ranked opponents. This team has discipline issues. I think it's going to be a tough night for my Gators. Give me LSU to cover the points quite easily in this game, Mike. What do you think?
Yeah, y'all got some injury issues too, like Dallas Wilson, DJ Lagway. We mentioned it last week. We talked about it, Dave. I talked about it. He's a little rusty. He wasn't able to practice much of the camp.
A lot
rusty.
rusty.
So he's
a lot
coming in
damn
a little
rusty.
The problem is he's going into Death Valley in Baton Rouge, and LSU has everything in front of them with them being 2-0 now. Their eyes are on the prize. SEC championship, playoffs, national championship, everything's in front of them. They're going to be ready to go from this one. But I do not have faith in either one of these offenses. LSU, I just can't get behind it. I wasn't impressed against Clemson. I wasn't impressed last week when they played, the mediocre team that they did in Louisiana Tech, winning 23-7. That game also, it was 10-0 at halftime. They only got 128 yards on the ground. They sort of held Louisiana Tech defensively, and that sort of was the difference in that game. But it also, Brian Kelly's also one of those guys at this point in his career. It's a get in and get out situation. So, he knows what's ahead of him. He knows what's at stake. I'm going to go with the under here, Gator Dave, 48.5. It's a low number, especially for these two teams. If you look at the last couple times that they've played each other, I'll give you the last 5 matchups. 2020, it was 37-34. 2021, 49-42. 2022, 45-35. 2023, 52-35. And then last year at Gainesville was a 16-27. But historically, believe it or not, this is historically over and a high-scoring game. Last 3 meetings in Baton Rouge, they've gone over the total, and they've averaged 82.6 a game in that matchup. So I'm actually going to go with the under here. I'm going to have faith in these defenses, but I hope this one doesn't get ugly for your guys here on national TV on Saturday night, Dave.
Mike, it could very well end up ugly. So anything can surprise me with this team at this point, just as well as them. For some odd reason, maybe they, if we're 7.5 right now, maybe they'll lose by 7 and they don't lose by 20. Who knows? But can't really tell with this Jekyll and Hyde team right now. But I still am obviously a fan, and we do appreciate everybody that's been on the show tonight. We're about to roll out. We're gonna run our last 4 picks on the podcast, but we appreciate everyone that's been on the in the chat tonight. We had a nice bit of chatter in the chat, so we appreciate everybody that's listened. Please subscribe. Hit that mash. They say mash on all the other shows. Mash that subscribe button. Mash that like button. And give us a comment, give us the big pluses in the on the podcast. We'd appreciate it, but we love being here with you guys. We appreciate the time tonight. Look forward to next week, and go Gators.
Yeah, everything Dave said. Make sure to check out shopcya.com. Shout out to Cover Your Assets. Make sure your assets are covered when you go to these football games this week. It should be a good one, Dave. Lots of hot live underdogs here this week, so it should be an exciting one. Needless to say, maybe a good bit of upsets on the horizon. So thank you again for everybody that was watching on YouTube. Like Dave said, we're going to jump over to the podcast now. Make sure to check it out for these last 4 games of the week, and we will see you next Wednesday.
Go Gators.
Go Canes, baby. Against those South Florida Bulls that just beat the Gators. We got them at home this week. We got them, and then next week, Dave. We're
there. We're there, Mike.
It happens.